Hi, I'm Blake, and I love to travel. This past week, I got to go to my number one place, my number one bucket list place in the entire world, and that is to Egypt. I had the most amazing opportunity and experience to go there and spend 3 days traveling all throughout the top part of Egypt, including coming in and flying in straight to Cairo, and traveling through Giza, down through Saqqara, and over to Memphis, which are historical sites through Egypt. I love history, I love travel, and this definitely was the most amazing trip I've ever been on. So I wanted to make a video. If you're planning on maybe taking a trip to Egypt, or you just want some information on it, I hope this video is helpful. The very first thing that you need to know is Egypt does require you to get a visa. So it is $25. You can get it through the State Department website. It'll take you straight to the Egyptian website and you can apply for it there. Or you can apply for it once you land in Egypt. Again, $25 gets you a 30-day tourist pass, and it is required again if you are going to go to Egypt. Once you have that, or have planned on getting that once you land, you can go ahead and start making your plans. I planned everything through Expedia. I've planned other trips through Expedia. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But for this trip, it worked really well. So we booked our lodging first. The hotel, its name is Pyramids View Inn Bed and Breakfast. It is a very small little boutique style hotel that sits right in front of the Giza Plateau. So you have a view of all three of the pyramids, as well as the smaller pyramids that sit on the site. And it is extremely affordable. The staff is so friendly, so helpful, to the point that as soon as we landed in Cairo, there was a driver with a car waiting to take us to the hotel. That is complimentary as long as you stay 2 nights. So that was a huge added bonus, as getting around Egypt without a specific driver may not be so easy. You do have to be careful for taxis and Ubers, but if you can get scheduled transportation, that's definitely the way to go, the safest way, and probably the cheapest way. So our driver took us straight to the hotel. We met the wonderful staff who showed us to our room where we had a view of the pyramids, and then took us up to the balcony where we had a wonderful dinner from the hotel. It was about $15 a person. That's probably going to be the more expensive food that you can get, as you can get cheap food as long as you know where to get it and are possibly with a local. But the food was wonderful. We had a traditional Egyptian meal with steak. We had soup, bread, and fresh cucumbers, tomatoes, and it was really spectacular because you're sitting there eating this while looking straight at the pyramids. So absolutely amazing opportunity. So the next day, we got up early. We had scheduled an all-day tour. That was through Expedia as well, with a company called Emo Tours. Emo Tours is actually the company that we used for both of our excursions, and they were wonderful, so friendly, knowledgeable. We felt very safe. They provided all the transportation, the tour guides. So it was definitely a decent tour group to go through. We booked through Expedia. I know that they're also on TripAdvisor and Viator as well, and they're very affordable tours. So we had a local private tour. So we had a driver and a tour guide. They picked us up from our hotel at 7 a.m. on our first day. And we had the option. We had the full day itinerary, which included the Giza Plateau, including all 3 of the pyramids, Saqqara, and Memphis. And so we ended up starting our day in Memphis because the pyramids didn't open until later that day. So they wanted to go ahead and start us someplace where we could start the day early and there would be less tourists. So we started the day at 7 a.m. and made our way down to Memphis, which was about a 45-minute drive. Memphis was the original capital of Egypt and stood as the capital for hundreds of years. It did move a few different times throughout ancient history, but was one of the most prominent sites throughout Egyptian history as a whole. At the site today, there is little left of any of the structures, but what you can see at the site of Memphis is the very well-known colossal statue of Ramses. So there are two statues. One of them is housed in one of the museums in Egypt. The other one still sits on the site exactly where it was buried, and the building was built around it. So it's actually laying down on its back, but you're able to walk up to it. It's also surrounded by other statues that were found on the sites, some depicting hieroglyphs, some beautiful pictures, and some other sculptures. There at Memphis as well is the Alabaster Sphinx. I'm not sure, our guide did say something to the effect of it was the only one, but it might be the only one there at Memphis. I'm not 100% sure. But there at the site, you can see the Alabaster Sphinx. It's setting in the courtyard, as well as some other statues of Ramses the Great and some other hieroglyphics and pictures and paintings. There at the site, there are vendors that are set up to be able to buy little souvenirs and things. Be mindful of this, as they are there for a reason. They're there to make money. So most of the things that they are selling, they are going to be selling at much higher rates than you'll be able to find them elsewhere in Egypt. There are some pieces that you might be able to find other places, maybe not. Some of them you'll always get the handmade in Egypt, so they're going to try to sell it for more. But just be mindful that you most likely are going to be able to get the same pieces elsewhere for cheaper. I did buy a few things there, including these two hand-carved marble statues. So this is a marble carving of the Sphinx, and this is a marble carving of Anubis, the Egyptian god, in his jackal dog form. I did pay probably a bit more for these than I could have elsewhere, but actually did not find either of these pieces anywhere else whenever we were shopping later. I also bought this alabaster vase there. Did way overpay for this, but again, our dollar goes a lot farther there than it does here, so I don't mind spending a little bit more because it is their livelihood. Just make sure that you don't feel like you've been taken advantage of. It's a good segue into their money. So I have some examples of their currency. This is a 20-pound note. So Egyptian pounds are much less than an American pound, or than an American dollar. This is a 10-pound note. And so approximately, if you have two 20-pound notes and one 10-pound note, then that is approximately worth one American dollar. So the ratio is about 48 to 50 Egyptian pounds to one US dollar. And so everything is extremely affordable if you know how to look where to look. So after we left Memphis, we headed to Saqqara, which is the home of a few pyramids, including the very first pyramid ever built, which is the step pyramid of the pharaoh Djoser. It was the very first pyramid that was ever built, and it is built in rows. And so from that is where the ancient Egyptians perfected the concept of having the straight pyramid with the slick sides that we are all familiar with seeing. So we toured the pyramid complex, which included several temples to different gods, as well as walking up to the step pyramid. That one we did not go inside of. However, I do believe you are able to go inside. Our tour, we did not do that piece. So as we walked away from the step pyramid, we went up a set of stairs and over to the pyramid of Unis, which is a smaller, less well-known pyramid, but we were able to go into that one. So our tour guide led us to the entrance, and we walked down the very steep slope, and underneath, which was about 50 yards, ducking completely down until you enter the 3 rooms within the pyramid. So you had the burial room, the entryway room, and then a secondary room where treasures would have been. It was completely robbed in antiquity and nothing remains, but all of the hieroglyphics, as well as a lot of the paint, is still visible in that pyramid. So that was really cool to be able to go inside a pyramid, look around and see it. We did tip an individual, a local, who led us down there. Didn't know that that's what we were doing, because you don't have to do that. You can go down without a tour person. But we didn't know that at the time. So we ended up tipping him, I believe, $10, which is a lot. You don't need to tip that much. You don't have to tip at all. But we didn't mind to. There were 2 of us that went, and so we figured it out like it was $5 a person to go in a pyramid. So we didn't think that was bad. So we returned to the surface, walked around Saqqara, and then when we left there, we did excursions, which we didn't know we were doing. They weren't necessarily a bad thing, but they were definitely there to make the sale. So when we left Saqqara, we went to a school of carpeting. So when we go inside, there are all of these students who are part of the college who make carpets. That's how they spend their days, is they sew carpets. So they're pulling carpets. We had the opportunity to weave a few pieces, and they explained the process of how the carpets are made and how if a mistake is made, like all of the ramifications of that. They then led us upstairs and let us look around at the inventory. We were offered sales. We were told, do not feel obligated to buy anything. So we did not. But it was very beautiful, very cool to see how that was done. Once we had left there, we went to lunch, which was included in our tour. And it was a lot of the same foods from the evening before. Traditional chicken and lamb and beef, as well as vegetables, pitas, rice, soup, and that was all included in our tour as well. So we had lunch, and then we proceeded. We did 2 more of those little stop-in excursions that we weren't planning on. Again, it was nice to see. We went into a papyrus shop where they explained the process of taking the papyrus plant, cutting it down, and forming papers. Again, we had the option to buy, and they told us no pressure. Most of the small pieces started out around 18 American dollars and went up from there. I didn't feel like that was necessary, so I did end up buying a cheap one. It's most likely not even papyrus, but this was less than $1 US, and I felt like it did exactly the same thing as the real ones. The difference being that this one's not hand-painted, but the ones that you're paying a lot of money for are not hand-painted in antiquity, so it wasn't that big of a deal for me. After we left the papyrus shop, we then headed to a spice and oil shop, and they let us smell different scents and sample different spices. Again, we were given the option to buy, but we did not. If that's your thing, they will probably give you a great deal, but be mindful that these are specifically tourist traps. They take you there because they know that you are not from Egypt and you might have money. So just be mindful of that whenever you book your tours. After we left the last of those 3 little minor shops, we then proceeded to the Giza Plateau. And we got to get real up close and personal with the Great Pyramid of Giza. We were able to walk right up to it, actually stand on a piece, take some pictures, and walk along the side. We didn't get to go into that one. It was not included in our tour. We would have liked to do it, but we were running low on time, and our tour guide did not want us to go into that one. He told us that there wasn't anything inside, so we bypassed that. I do wish that we had had more time on the Giza Plateau as a whole. because I do feel like that was the one thing that we did get slighted on. After we left the main pyramid, the pyramid of Khufu, then we drove past the pyramid of Khafre, which was Khufu's son, and then past the pyramid of Menkora, which is the smallest of the three. And we were given the option to take a camel ride. This camel ride was $15 a person, and by far the most amazing thing that we did on our entire trip. We got to ride a camel about 10-15 minutes into the desert, just past the pyramids, to take some of the most iconic pictures that I've ever seen in my life. We got to take pictures on the camels. We got to take pictures beside the camels with the pyramids. It was truly exceptional. The guide that took us out was different from our tour guide, who also went out with us and just did an exceptional job at taking pictures. He knew what he was doing. It was definitely worth the money. The highlight of the trip. So once we rode our camels back to the initial point, we got back into our car and we drove down to the Sphinx. We got a few quick pictures before returning to our hotel. Again, the biggest issue that both of us had with the tour that day is that we didn't feel like we got to spend a lot of time at the pyramids, which was the time that was promised. As far as the overall tour, again, I can't complain too much because it was very reasonably priced and we did get to see a lot of amazing things, but would like to have seen more of the pyramids. That evening, we did eat at the hotel again and spent some more time staring at the pyramids from our hotel room. So on our third and final day, we scheduled a driver with the hotel who was going to provide us transportation to the Egyptian Museum as well as the bazaar. So we started out by, well, first of all, our car was $40 for the day, which I didn't feel like was bad again, considering all things. So it made it $20 a day per person, and we were gone for almost 6 hours. So we drove from our hotel back into Cairo, which was about 45-minute hour drive, and went to the Egyptian Museum. I wanted to go there specifically because there were a few pieces that I was very interested in seeing before it got moved to the new museum in Giza. So, of course, the main thing that we wanted to see was the mask of King Tut. So, a lot of King Tut's burial items were still in the museum at the time. I do believe that they are being moved toward the end of October 2024 into the Grand Egyptian Museum in Giza. But when we were there, we made it to the museum about 20 minutes before it opened, stood in line with about 20 other people, and walked straight in, turned, went all the way to the back and up the stairs, and were the only people inside the room with the mask for approximately 2 minutes. So I took the opportunity to stare face to face at King Tut's burial mask for as long as I could until somebody else came. And it's truly remarkable. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of art I've ever seen in my life. Just the exquisite detail, not to mention the fact that it is over 3,000 years old. So, I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. I truly valued the time that I had with the mask. After that, we did walk around the museum, saw several sphinxes, saw several different statues, some pyramid toppers from some of the other pyramids throughout Egypt. And it's a great museum. You could tell that it's not an American museum. It had a layer of dust on a lot of the exhibits. Some of the exhibits were completely empty. Some were wrapped in cellophane. And I'm sure that does have a lot to do with the fact that the pieces are being moved to the new museum, but it still felt very just not well maintained. which is kind of bizarre if you have been to any museums throughout Europe or America, or it felt very different. But it was still a lot of history, a lot of beautiful works of art that are thousands of years old. After we left the museum, we did go to the Khan el Khalili Bazaar in Cairo, which is the largest bazaar in Cairo. It is purely for tourists. It's completely tourist trap, but there are a lot of cool pieces that you can get there in the bazaar. Anything that you're looking for, you can find if it is any part of Egyptian culture. You can spend a lot of money, you can spend a little bit of money. So I'm going to show you some of the pieces that I did get and the price points. I got my flag. I get a flag in every country that I go to. This ended up being, I believe, around $1.50 US. They will give you the prices in US. They'll give you the prices in Egyptian pounds. If you do the calculations, sometimes the US prices that they're giving are a little bit higher. But again, you've got to do the best deal for you. You can haggle a little bit. And so I had to get my flag. I ended up getting 3 pyramids. Not in love with these, but they were a good deal. I ended up getting this one, the smaller and the smallest, which referred to the Pyramid of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkora. And I paid, I believe, $3 for all 3 of them. So these are little prices, which go a long way for them, but not so much for Americans. This piece it's a model of the King Tut death mask, and I believe that I paid $3 for this as well. This is another statue of Anubis, and again, around $4, I believe, for him. He is in bronze, or brass. And then the final piece that I gotten there, aside from a couple magnets, was this copper bust of Nefertiti, and I paid only $7 for this. So again, really amazing prices. You can haggle with them. I probably could have gotten this stuff a bit cheaper, but at the end of the day, I wasn't upset with any of the prices on anything. A lot of places will give you these when you walk in. These are little scarabs. A scarab is a dung beetle, and in ancient Egyptian times, they were a sign of safety and protection. And so I wound up with 2 of these that were given to me by store owners different times throughout our trip. Some of the magnets that I got include this hieroglyphic, as well as I got this pyramid, which they all stand up, and these were, gosh, I think around 50 American cents a piece. Again, everything is super affordable. Once we left the bazaar, we told our driver that we wanted to get some food. So he took us to a local fast food place, and we were able to get chicken shawarma, French fries, vegetables, and sauce. And it was in a rather large container. And it was approximately, I believe we calculated like $2.50 for all of the food. And then we went to a street vendor and got 4 Coca-Colas and a mixture of different snacks. I always like to get some different snacks from countries so I can try them, see what I think. So we got those, this, some little finger biscuits, and I got some Oreos, because why not get Oreos? And so all of that with the 4 Cokes and those 4 pieces of candy, again, that was less than $5 US. So their prices are very affordable if you go in the right places. After that, our driver took us back to our hotel and we got ready. We did take a little nap because even though we were doing a lot and we were very tired, like we did have downtime in between, which made it good because of the heat. So after our nap, we got ready and we were met by another driver from Emo Tours who took us to our Nile River riverboat cruise, which was a dinner cruise. And they picked us up at the hotel. They drove us to the site. It was definitely another tourist destination. Most people were American on the boat. They brought us into a large courtyard which had sphinxes as well as an Egyptian obelisk and some different statues in there before we boarded our boat. When we did board our boat, we were brought to a table. All the food was included. Any drinks were an upcharge, so we ended up getting a Coke, and I believe that it was like $2 there, whereas earlier in the day we did find out that they were like 50 cents at most convenience stores. One thing I did forget to mention is with money, they do like new money. So if you do plan on spending American dollars, which they do accept American dollars, British pounds, and euros when you are shopping with cash, but they want new money, meaning they want money that is printed recently, as well as money that has zero tears or heavy bends. If they do have tears or heavy bends, they most likely will not accept it and you will not be able to use that currency. So that was something that we did not expect. I had some $20 bills that had some small tears at the corners and they would not take them. So yeah, just note. So we sat down at our table and we then were able to get our food, which was a lot of the same food that we had had at that point, as well as they did have some desserts. The dinner did include, it was a 2-hour boat ride that included some music, which traditional like Egyptian music, as well as 2 different belly dancers and another male dancer who spun in circles. I'm not really sure what the name of him or his profession was, but they did rotate and had 3 different events that were going on throughout the dinner. The music was very loud on the boat. So we did spend a lot of our time on the deck of the boat, which was absolutely wonderful. It was like 75 degrees. The sun had set. There was a nice breeze on the river. So we sat out there for a while and just enjoyed the views of Cairo on one side, Giza on the other side. So it was nice to be able to see both of the cities from the riverboat cruise. It was a good time. Again, the dinner itself was very affordable. I think it was $28 for a person, which included the 2-hour boat ride plus dinner. So I didn't think that was bad at all. After that, the tour group did bring us back to the hotel, and we wrapped up for the night. So the next morning, we did have to schedule a ride with the hotel. It was not complimentary, just one way, back to the airport. And I think that the ride was $20, which again is an hour ride. And that basically wrapped it up. So some key points that I do want to talk to you about is water. So the water in Egypt is not potable. It's not drinkable. So we were concerned about that. We both brought some water bottles, only to find out that we did not need them. Both of the tours that we booked provided water to and from wherever we were going, as well as some waters during the day of our long day tour. And our hotel also provided lots of water throughout the day. When we arrived in our room, we had 3 bottles of water, as well as 2 more that were provided to us at dinner. And they just continued to give them to us when we would come or go from the hotel in case we needed it. I had plenty of water, never ran out, never felt like I didn't have some or couldn't get some. So that was a big worry for me that ended up being not a problem at all. Some other things that felt like would be helpful is whenever you go to leave Egypt, when you go to the airport, you must go through a scanner prior to getting to the ticket counter. So go through a metal scanner, go to your ticket counter, get a paper ticket, which then must be stamped when you go through customs before you leave Egypt. I actually thought that this was a very good thing because I feel like it would cut down on some of as many screenings as you want to do to make sure that everything's safe. I think that's a good idea. So, yeah, that was one thing that we didn't know, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Let's see. Yeah, I think that all in all, everything that we did was great. Both of the tours that we did were great. Our driver was exceptional on the day that we had a private driver, and he ended up being the one who drove us to the airport as well. Everyone is super friendly. People are always going to talk to you because they think that you might be able to buy something from them. So just be ready for that. And I hope this video was helpful. I absolutely loved it. And I can't wait to go back one day and see some more of Egypt and see what else happens. So thanks so much.